I am afraid for our country, and I think you probably are too. With just the last week, bombs being mailed to politicians, the civil unrest and anarchy breaking out in certain places, and today's disturbing and horrible news of a synagogue being shot up in Pittsburgh, which is already has been determined to be a hate crime. That's a week. And that stuff's been going on. And it doesn't seem to have any relief in sight. For just a minute, I'd just like to talk about the relationship that we have with our Jewish brothers and sisters as Catholics, as just maybe a reminder. We have a beautifully placed first reading about God and his relationship to his chosen people today at Mass. God says, I will gather my people. Right? I will be gathering them from the ends of the earth. Right? And they're still his people. Right? The church believes that the Jewish people are still the chosen people of God. That the family is expanded, that we're all now through baptism invited into the family of God, but that God still loves his chosen people, and he still promises to gather them and is working actively to gather them back to himself, as he is working to gather us back. And we have, as Catholics, as with everything else in the history of the last 2,000 years, some of us, through that time, have gotten things wrong and have treated people with hatred, right? We can go down the list. We're all hopefully infinitely and always aware of the sins of our fellow Christians, the Inquisitions and the Crusades, and all of the other things that we as people who have professed Christ have done. As I'm sure our Jewish brothers and sisters would say the same thing. And I think the model for us is, I would just hold up one tiny example. Pope St. John Paul II, whose feast day who we celebrated this past Monday. His best friend his entire life was a Jewish person that he grew up with and continued to stay in close friendship with throughout his papacy. And I think that we need to remind ourselves of that. But looking then for just a moment at the larger unrest then as well. I think the question obviously becomes, what do we do about it? Right? What do we do? And I would just like to propose something that I think is there in the readings. I see it at least. I hope I'm not just reading it in there. But what I would propose is that we talk to each other. Right? That's not my unique thing. That's not something I just came up with. But I think we see Jesus doing it, first of all, and I'd like to, in the gospel, we see Jesus doing it. Right? We see Jesus engaging this man in a conversation. Right? And everyone else, it's interesting, right? What's everyone else telling this guy? Shut up. Be silent. And we have a lot of that going on in our country. Don't talk. We don't want to hear from you. We have so completely ruled out who you are. We have condemned you before you open your mouth. We know you're wrong. Be quiet. I don't want to hear about you. I don't want to hear your logic. Because you are whatever political party or belief or religion, be silent. You are dead to me. Right? That line from the gospel is what a lot of us are telling other people within our culture, and that is a recipe for disaster. What does Jesus do? Does Jesus tell people to be silent? No. In today's gospel, what does he do? Everyone else telling this guy who's calling out for Jesus, they're like, be quiet, be silent, don't talk. And Jesus is like, no, I do. I want to talk to him. And he calls him over. And Jesus asks him a question. He says, what do you want me to do for you? Right? Jesus already knows. But why? So then why would he say it? Well, one of the reasons is he would say because he wants to talk. Right? There's another beautiful, I mean, you can go through all the Gospels where Jesus meets a person. Right? He even meets the woman that's in adultery and is like got 5 or 6 past husbands. What does he start with that? No, he engages in a conversation and he elicits from that woman, as he elicits from this man, his story. His story. Jesus doesn't teach him. Jesus doesn't say, well, you should believe this, or don't you know that, this is the right way to think? Jesus elicits from people their stories. And I would just say, I think that we are called to that. And that's such an awesome way out of this mess. Right? We need to do that. We need to stop telling people to be silent. And we need to stop leading with whatever our morality is and our rightness or what we think or what we think everyone else should be doing. We need to ask people, elicit from them, what is your story? Because the great thing about that is it's totally safe. It's heart to heart. Right? It's heart to heart. Tell me about your past. Like, who are you? Where did you come from? What's your story? What shaped you in your life? Everyone wants to talk to other people about that, I think. Right? That's two human beings coming into contact with each other. If it's, why do you vote Republican or why do you vote Democrat, I can tell you how that conversation is going to go from that point on. Or why are you a Catholic? Or why are you a Jew? Right? Or you should be a Jew, or you should be a Catholic, or you should be a Republican, or you should be a Democrat. I can tell you we all know how that's going to go. It's done. We're not talking anymore. Right? That's not what Jesus says. Jesus doesn't say, yeah, hi, I'm God. Have you heard the 10 Commandments? He elicits their story. Since we're touching on all of the third rails tonight, I was asked this past summer to speak at a conference to the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, their religious education people and pastoral leaders, some Catholic high school people, and it was about the transgender moment that we face, that we're trying as a church. How do we respond? How do we help? How do we deal with this? And I was asked to talk because I had done the documentary, The Third Way, on the church's teaching about homosexuality. And I said that basically that my presentation was what we need to be doing as pastoral leaders in these moments, as it was when we're pastorally talking or interacting with someone who is living with same-sex attraction. It's the start is, tell me your story. I'm really humbled that you would come, and I'm so thankful to meet you. Tell me about yourself. Right? And to mean it. Right? To genuinely want to hear another person's story. Not, why are you that way, or what, how we're going to change each other, or, all this kind of stuff. It's just, what's your story? And it goes within the church too. You're a traditional Catholic. Why? Well, that's going to, yeah, thanks for talking. Or you're, you, whatever, wherever you're at in the church, like all this, it doesn't work. And it's not what Jesus did. And I think if we're going to get out of this stuff, I think it's going to be following the method modeled by the Master. The method that's modeled by the Master on interacting with each other is about a unique and intense and real desire to know another person's story. In the midst of that, down the road, at some point, does a conversation come in about, do you move past that? Or does that, yes, that allows you, when you share a story with each other and you learn about and talk about where you've come from, your history, why, your life, what matters to you, what were those moments in your formation and who made you who you are. Down the road, conversations there can be an opportunity to talk about. Jesus eventually starts to talk about those things sometimes. He eventually helps the woman. He does start to talk with the woman eventually about her marriages. Right? But that's in it. So, and it also can't be, hey, let's talk. I'm going to act like I care about you so that I can then evangelize you. So I'm here. I just want to hear your story so that I can then slip in the Ten Commandments. That's not it. It has to be a genuine interest in the other person. And this is not a place where there's not judgment. There is a desire to learn more about this person in front of me. You can't do that on Facebook. You can't do it on whatever else, Twitter, Instagram, texting. You can only do it face to face and heart to heart. And the moment that we stop doing that, we're done. We pray today for our country. We pray that we might look at how Jesus, I think, is encouraging us to interact with each other. And if we look around the world and it's too much, we look around our country and it's too much, let's start in here. Find some people in this parish that you don't know and find a way to get to know them. Ask them a question. Let them know that you're genuinely interested in knowing who they are. And as we start to do that, I think the rest of the stuff starts to work itself out. We pray for healing in our country. We pray for our country at every Mass. We pray for the leaders of our country at every Mass. The Church says the Church requires 3 petitions at every Mass. The first petition must always be for the Pope and your own bishop and the Church. The second petition, always at every Mass, is for our country and our civil government and our leaders. And the final petition always has to be for the deceased. We pray at every Mass for our leaders, for our country, for all of the people that are in our larger community. We pray that we might find healing that will only come to us through the sharing and heart-to-heart, one-on-one conversations and relationships that Jesus showed us. We pray that we might have the courage to enter into those.